Okay, well, fingers crossed. Uh, yeah, so, I was thinking the other day how long it's been since I tried to show you Final Fantasy Tactics DP. This is
Mhm.
Josh speaking, and I've got Alex, aka DP, with me again. None of
Hello.
anybody who might actually see this would probably remember this at all, but, do you remember any of this game whatsoever?
My memory is a little fuzzy at this point, I have to confess. I had tried playing it a couple years ago before we did this stream, and so I remember very well the sort of um, you know experience of playing over and over again that crate level and just failing over and over again, and then training in that stupid field over and over again. It might be a little strong to say that I was sort of, what the heck is the word I'm looking for? At any rate, my memories of this game are interesting.
Well, yeah, and we tried to do this once before, and you and I got a little ways through. We got probably through all of the first chapter, I think, but that's been
Mhm.
2 years ago, and it was kind of a grind when we tried to do this last time, and
Yeah.
now we've got everything much more better organized. Hopefully, we can get a little further this time. The big thing is that we're switching from the iOS version of the game and me having to fight my way through the touch controls with it to the PSP version of the game, which I've gotten modified so it no longer has the big bugs that made the original PSP version totally a pain to play, and it gives us the opportunity to try to get through the game a little bit faster. So hopefully this will be more entertaining for everybody who might be involved, including the two of us.
I definitely remember the touch controls causing certain issues, I think,
Oh, I hated it.
at certain crucial moments.
And
Now,
frankly, one thing I was going to do to fix that was I eventually got a Bluetooth controller that I could sync to my tablet, but
right.
then I kind of cheaped out on the Bluetooth controller, and it took me 2 weeks to get it paired to my Raspberry Pi, and I thought, if I try to pair this to another device, it'll probably never work again on my Raspberry Pi, so I'm just going to leave it there. So even after I got a Bluetooth controller, I still would have had to use the touch controls on the tablet, and I don't want that whatsoever. The other nice thing about the way we're doing it now is that for the first time, you'll be finally able to hear the soundtrack in context, which we couldn't do the last time we tried to stream
Yeah.
this, and it made me feel really bad because this is definitely one of my favorite soundtracks in the Final Fantasy series. So hopefully I've got this set up now where you'll be able to hear it nicely, or at least nicely enough, and we won't blow out any of our watchers' ears while we do it at the same time. But in any event, let's see what happens here. I'm going to start this bad boy up.
Woo.
And then I'm going to realize that I'm not showing the screen yet. There we go. Let's do that.
All right. There's that sweet, sweet audio.
Yeah, this has always been a really cool intro in my point of view. The original PSX version had a lower res, kind of not as fancy version of this, and like everything with the PSX version, it was kind of Englishy. So this the new one that they redid for the PSP and all subsequent releases is much more attractive and much more readable, and it actually makes a little bit of sense, whereas the original one really didn't.
That's helpful. Was it a full translation redo or just a
Oh yes, they obviously they keep what they can keep, and the gist is the
sure?
same. But the original translation was just incredibly Englishy, for lack of a better term, and
Yes.
it made a lot of things very difficult to understand, including a lot of serious plot points. I mean, heck, going right here to this prologue, this was hard to understand what was actually going on when you played this on the PSX version, unless you already knew what was going on. It's more sensical now because what we're seeing here and what you can tell from reading is that this is being presented as a historical narrative. The the guy who's talking right now, Alizlam, is a historian several hundred years after the events of the game. And this is just a little bit of, backstory into how the game is going to, or how we're going to lead into the game briefly.
Right.
We're talking a little bit about Delita Hyrule. He is a character that we'll see repeatedly throughout the game.
Mhm.
But
And
what
right, I'm remembering now too that the game it has this frame narrative around it, but then also the first chapter, the first act is itself sort of like a prologue.
it's a flashback essentially,
Right, a
and
flashback.
that's something that is very confusing in the original version. The first time I played this 20 years ago, it took me several battles to realize, oh wait, this is why things are different here than they were in this
Right.
very first prologue battle.
Yeah.
But essentially, what is happening here is that we're being told that Delito was a hero of history. He merged the kingdoms. He ended the war. But that is the narrative that people wanted you to have. And then we have this kid Ramza, who is pretty much wiped from history, other than
Uh-huh.
here in the Durai papers, which coincidentally we have on screen right now. And that is the work of another historian whose work was buried by the powers that be after the course of the game for reasons that will become clear.
Oh. Okay. I'd forgotten these details. That is the sort of like history and counter history aspect of this.
Yeah, or to go with the vernacular of the day, the fake news.
Nice.
Yeah, it's oh boy, layers upon layers upon layers. Oh, Final Fantasy Tactics. Why, yes, Alizlam, because it's totally relevant that you know my name and date of birth.
Right.
Now, here's where the layer of it being a video game comes in. If I were to change Rams's name here, that would be the name that he would be called throughout the game, which would, take a lot away. So let's not do that.
Uh-huh.
Yes, the name Ramza is okay.
Yeah,
Now,
I'm the kind of person who almost never changes the names myself.
yeah, nor I. But I will say that I'll go ahead and put my birthday in here because I always do. The birthday actually does matter a little bit.
Not Khan's birthday?
What's that?
Not Khan's birthday?
Oh, touche. For power players, the birthday does play in because the whole nature of the universe in this game is defined in a lot of ways by the zodiac, and the kind of I guess horoscopal type thing that so many people like to put stock in nowadays really actually has a real influence in this game, given that different zodiac signs have different levels of compatibility with other ones. And if you build a party that has high compatibility with the sign that you assign yourself at the start here, then they're going to be slightly more powerful. And if you create yourself with a sign that has good compatibility against the birth dates of the enemies that you face over time, which, a lot of them are randomly generated, but most of the story-based villains have hard and fast birth dates. And if you really wanted to, and some people do, you can set your date in a way that will make you more lethal to those enemies as you encounter them down the line. I don't bother with any of that. It's not that difficult of a game. Some people like to play that way, more power to them. Something else new in the PSP and later versions are these animated cutscenes. There was a cutscene that takes place at this part of the game, even in the original version, but
Right.
this one is much cooler. It may not come through, it'll come through for our viewers on Twitch, of course, but for you, it may be a little bit low res. The animation has a very cool, like, hand-drawn effect where the lighting kind of shifts a little bit frame by frame and gives it a little bit of a flickering effect. It looks very, I don't know, very medieval, I suppose. Almost as if it's torchlit.
Right. It's an interesting style. one of the things that's always, and I think a lot of fans of the series have, held uh, cutscenes or know one of the interesting things about the game sort of set in the tactics universe is this um, sort of style that uh, is very much going for this illustrated look where you see the pencil hash marks there
Yeah, the
on the
cross
armor,
hatching is very visible.
right? And you have the sort of like it's always sort of the color palette too seems to be a lot of dark greens and browns and then the sort of yellows,
Mm-hmm.
and also I guess the sort of like a burgundy kind of red color. Um,
Yeah,
it does,
and
I think,
at
set
the
a very interesting kind of visual universe.
and at the same time, it's a little bit desaturated as well,
Yeah.
so you kind of get the feeling that all of it is being illustrated on parchment,
Yes,
which
absolutely.
is very cool.
Right. The base is like an off white.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now,
It does, I think, belong to that respect too. I think one thing that Square Enix I think was very good at in the late '90s and early 2000s, where they understood that there were certain limitations to the kind of visual work they could do, so they adapted these sort of stylistic uh, techniques, but also paradigm in order to work around those limitations. And the results have been rather interesting in different ways. Certainly, if you look at, say, Final Fantasy 7, 8, and 9, you see three very different attempts to again work within the confines.
yeah, and it's worth pointing out that the original version of it. Well, first I'll point out that you were kind of coming and going on your mic a little bit there. So,
Oops, sorry about that.
um, but the interesting thing is that in the original release, the scene that you just saw was actually just a standard FMV, very much in the style of Final Fantasy VII. This game came out
Hmm.
just after Final Fantasy VII.
Right.
And for those who weren't aware, that was in fact Alita in that last cutscene riding his chocobo. And again, because it's not made very clear in any way, he was riding to where we are right now in this in-engine uh, portion of the game. What we have here on the right side of the screen, kneeling, is the princess of our kingdom. Um, she is in a church, obviously, praying. The ginger lady in the middle, who was just speaking, is her retainer and the captain of her guard. And the other three folks here, Gafgarian speaking now, and the guy partially hidden by Gafgarian's speech box, and the other fella kneeling are, well, sellswords in the parlance of the game, the mercenaries hired by Agrius to help protect the princess. And we've got a little bit of conflict here. Agrius doesn't like Gafgarian. Gafgarian doesn't like anybody.
Uh-oh. Oh man, the names are already beginning to accumulate.
Yes, they do.
Ah,
Uh,
Ram's first introduction there.
yes.
One of the things that always strikes me as funny about the tactics games is that they everyone already has beef with everyone.
Well,
Um,
I,
there's always like there's always snide comments going back and forth from the very start.
it's true to history.
Or is it true to history, Josh? Which historical narrative is to be believed?
Ah, absolutely. So yeah, in essence, here we have a military force led by the antagonist in the upcoming war, and he wants to take the princess and use her to essentially exert influence on the princess's kingdom.
Right.
Now, there aren't very many of the animated cutscenes with voiceover work in the game, but there are many, many of the in-engine cutscenes like what we just saw. Usually a lot of talking from one party to another, and then a battle commencing. This is obviously just the prologue battle, in which case we are not going to be controlling anybody but Ramza after we get past this battle, as just kind of a story mover and basic tutorial kind of thing, even without it being a tutorial whatsoever. We'll move into the more standard battle procedure. And because this is the way that it is, especially because we're not really doing too much here, I'm going to blip through some of this with a little bit of fast forward. So anybody who sees things behaving weirdly, that's probably because I'm skipping past them. That's interesting. Oh, because I'm hitting the wrong button. Haha! There we go. I thought it'd be easier without the touch controls. I'll go through the battle techniques a little bit more on the next turn. I fast forwarded too much. Now, Agrius, as a very special character, has special attributes and special abilities. She just stopped that enemy archer in his tracks with one of her spells, or one of her sword spells. So that'll make this battle far, far easier, since now only 4 of their 5 party members are actually able to do anything.
Well, archers are often at least from my experience of the first few battles, archers are often a real pain in the ass.
Indeed. Not so much in this prologue battle, of course, and really not as much until you get a little bit later in the game. For most of the first chapter, your both enemy and your party's archers don't have access to real bows. They have access only to crossbows. And crossbows have the... Gafgarian took him out with his dark sword ability. That was essentially a blood sword ability where he hit the enemy and got HP back for doing so. But as I was saying, the crossbows can only shoot in a horizontal plane, whereas real bows can arc, so they can shoot over obstacles or other party members. So they're not nearly as dangerous now as they get later on, but still a little bit of a mess.
Well, and then they can, mess things up if you're charging, and
Indeed.
that can really throw off the pace of battle if you suddenly have a move that's being charged get disrupted like that.
Yeah. Or you just get hammered because you can't defend yourself when you're charging an attack. So now I've moved Ramza into position here, and I've gone into his action menu, and he's got 2 right now. He's got attack and he's got metal. Attack is exactly what you'd think. Metal is the Squire's special ability class. Ramza can get a few extra abilities as the special Squire, but Squires have just kind of general things. Rush, is like a body tackle. Stone is to throw a rock. Chant and Steel are attribute buffs. But right now, let's actually thump this chemist a little bit. And you see I got some experience and some job points there for doing that. Successful actions, really regardless of what they are, will give you those things. And experience is exactly what it sounds like, and job points are exactly what they sound like. The more experience you get, the higher your level is going to be, and the more powerful you are overall. The more JP you get, the more abilities you can buy and learn from the job store for that job. There's a lot to the way the jobs work in this, like way more than other job-associated Final Fantasies like 3 and 5. But that's the basics of it. You get JP, you spend JP, you learn more things. You get JP for other classes by other party members who are in those classes doing things too. So with the 2 knights that we have on our team right now, all of the other party members are learning a little bit of JP for the knight class anytime those knights do something too. It's not much, but the more of the same type character job that you have in a party, the more that you will actually get in JP for those jobs, whether you're in them or not. So a pretty typical grinding thing is you get a party that's healthy enough to be able to survive most kinds of attacks, and then you can switch them all to the same job and really get a ton of JP for all of them at once by just repeating actions over and over and over again. Nope. Ah, no. That was not what I wanted to do. I gotta remember how this works.
Oh no! Whoa. Okay.
There we go. So what I really wanted to do was tilt my map a little bit so I could see from a higher angle and make sure that when I walked over here, I would actually be able to do what I wanted to do, which is get alongside this guy and chop him down.
Bash.
So they're down to just 1 member. She's going to thump him right there because obviously he was in critical HP already. He was crouched down just like in all Final Fantasy games. And now they're dead.
Woo. Man, I was really missing out a lot when I wasn't getting their little dying sounds.
Oh, yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, man, that really adds a lot.
And now you can get the voice acting as well.
This way. Be quick and try making a little less noise.
I'll not take orders from you.
You've quite a mouth on you, princess. Forgive me. 'Tis your birth and faith that wrong you, not I.
It's pretty savage.
Whoa.
Hold there.
Is it truly him?
I'm sorry, but Ramsey kind of sounds like Kif Kroker from Futurama a little bit.
Nice. I guess that was Delida right there?
That was, and you get a little bit of a sense that Ramza knows the guy.
He lives?
Ah, see, there you go.
But why does he fight under the banner of Duke Goltana?
Wait, now he wasn't in the group that came in the front door.
No,
was he?
they were the they were the bait to get all of the soldiers outside, so he could sneak in the back and
Okay.
kidnap the princess.
Gotcha. I was confused there for a second.
And now, with no other warning, we are now back in time. So, what we just saw, we can call the present, and the game will pick up from that point and move forward later. But for now, it's hopping back about a year, and we're hopping back to the time where Ramza and Delita were just, essentially new conscripts in the kingdom's army.
Hmm.
Academy soldiers, cadets,
Right.
soon to be the officers of the army.
And now, right, Ramza is no longer in that service. He's now a sellsword, right?
Yes, exactly. And you see how he gets to that point in this first chapter, The Meager, which, for anybody that might be watching, you'll now understand why on our stream Ramza is in his blue suit and high boots rather than the more robust armor that he was just in that prologue.
The Corpse Brigade.
Yes.
Ooh.
The names are far better in this version.
Duke Lord. That's the lamest name.
Yeah, and, as you alluded to before, just buckets upon buckets of names are going to get thrown at you throughout this game. And even it's difficult to work them all out, even having played the game many times, which obviously I have. I'll show you at some point. They actually do keep an encyclopedia in the game, so you can keep up on everything that's happening with all the characters and refresh yourself on which ones are which. And it is 100% necessary.
All of Evil East is in turmoil. The Order is supposed to be keeping things under control, but oops.
Yeah, I'm blown through the dialogue, sorry.
One of the things I think too about this game is that sometimes you get characters referenced who are important, say, in the world, but maybe not that big of a role in the narrative of the game.
No, absolutely. Trying to think of a good example of that. I don't know what you've done to your mic. You fell into a hole there.
Oh no, did I?
You're a terrible person.
Oh no.
Okay, so in short, as the party was talking about before their commander came in there, the death... Is it? No. Corpse Brigade. In this version, I've played both versions so many times that I get confused on the names, but in this version it's Corpse Brigade. They are wandering around, making corpses of people. So the commanding officers are diverting more troops to try to flush them out and finish them off. So these green cadets here are going to report back to Egro's castle and defend where they think, it'll be the back line. They don't expect anybody to make a raid on Egro's castle, but they need to leave it defended, so they're going to send these cadets that way.
Cool.
And
one of the things about the names in this game is that they're almost always like close to a phrase, but then they just switch a letter. So for example, like ear gross, right? But no, if you just switch the G and the R, then you have the name of the thing in this game.
Okay.
Yeah, no, like they always switch a vowel and a consonant. Well, maybe not always a vowel and a consonant, but like right, Garoland, right? Just I don't know. I feel like there's always, yeah, I get confused all the time because they add like an extra syllable by switching two letters or something like that.
Well, anyway. One thing that the game is never really good at telling you, and it becomes less of an issue later on, but unless you already know, you don't really know whether you're going to have any additional support beyond your team, and you don't really know where putting these characters into this grid that you see here is going to necessarily put them on the battlefield itself. Again, having played this game enough, I realize that Ramza, being a special character, he kind of gets put wherever the narrative wants to put him when the next battle loads, as happens in a fair number of story battles, where everybody else will kind of land roughly where you see them here, but you'll see them on the map in a second. And you also have a guest in this upcoming battle, which is Delita. Guests do not get assigned to the grid this way, so you never really know, unless you've played it before, where that guest is going to show up once you actually start the battle. Mildly frustrating, especially here in this first battle where you kind of have an urge to try to grind out some extra experience from doing it, but it's also pretty easy to get your butt handed to you in this battle if you're not careful, because you don't have much of a party and you don't have many support items to heal and things like that. And what you'll see, and you probably remember from our first time doing this, is if one of your characters gets knocked out, you have a limited time to get them back. And if it's one of your non-special characters, once their death countdown expires, they're done for good. You don't have them anymore. If it's Ramza and that happens, you get a game over. Guests aren't impacted by that, so you can also just kind of let Delita tear through these creatures as much as he wants to until he gets knocked out and it doesn't really hurt anything, but then you also don't get the experience that you need out of this battle, and you're going to have trouble in the next one. So this is there's a steep learning curve between that prologue battle that we just fought and this crazy thing, where it's not necessarily a difficult battle, but if you toy around with it too much, you're gonna get thumped.
Right. And when I played this game, that's precisely what happened.
Yeah, the first
But
time I played this game, I lost this battle. And a lot of people, I've seen stories of the forums over time where people do this and they lose this battle and it takes them forever to come back to it if they ever do. Because, like, okay, is this entire game like this? Because, my god, that's no fun.
well, worse even than losing it though is winning it badly. What happened to me, where Delta had gotten clobbered, so he didn't get any experience from it. Ramza survived in like one of my other characters, but my other characters died and
Yeah.
were gone, and I didn't realize that they were never going to come back. I remember Clement, for example, was like the only person who seemed able to land a sword strike in this battle, and she died, and so she was just gone.
Yeah, and at this point in the game, you really don't have much money to recruit new soldiers, which is a way that you can get more generic soldiers over time, is to go to shops and recruit them, more sell swords. And at this point, you don't have enough money to really do that. So yeah, if you don't do this battle fairly well, just like you said, you can be in some trouble when you finish this. You could be stuck and have to start over.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean that was pretty much what I basically had to, I mean, I got to a certain point and then I just couldn't get any further. Precisely, I mean, in large part because of having messed up the first battle so much. So it really is like you have to reset the whole shebang.
Narrator wants you to increase your mic volume. Yeah, I've been telling him that, NP. That's unless you mean me, in which case, whatever. I do what I want.
Wow.
One thing I want to call out here briefly is Ramza has much better translation this time around. This is a pretty BA sort of statement he's making here. This is a teenage kid, not even out of the okay, fine, NP, fine, fine, fine. There, mine's much higher now. Yeah, he talks a good game for being just a punk kid. He comes from a good warrior family, but still, you've never done anything, son.
Yeah, he's still got his little ponytail thing.
Yeah, that's the sign of maturity in this world. Obviously, is whether yeah, hey, all right, yeah, glad to help, NP. Yeah, mildly annoying is that the camera gets reset whenever we do like cutscene conversation in the middle of one of these battles, and I always like to have my camera pointing from as high an angle as possible because I can see things that way.
Uh-huh.
Now, what I didn't say right away is that, by and large, I'm going to kind of leave that party on the right, the sub-party of 3. I've got 2 squires and a chemist over there. I'm going to kind of leave them in place for a little bit, which makes it more difficult for them to receive XP right away, but it also kind of creates a little bit of a fire trap for the left side of the enemy to come in and see me. If you get too spread out here, it's easy for them to gang up on you, but keeping people compact here for a turn or two will give them an opportunity to move in closer and hopefully do the same thing to them that otherwise I would be leaving myself open for. Not much is going to happen this turn, so I'm going to fast forward through that briefly. I turned her the wrong way. Obviously, being attacked from the back is going to damage you a little bit more than being attacked from the front.
Right. And also the risk of criticals goes up, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Again, the power players of this game, and you know who you are out there, they know exactly how to take advantage of that. I don't find it strictly necessary, so I'm not too terribly worried about it. But it is a way to take advantage of the game's mechanics a little bit more. And it stands to reason. You're going to hit somebody from the back where they can't see you. Yeah, it's going to hurt more.
Right. I mean, that difference can really add up, too. I mean, you get in a couple hits from the back, it's the equivalent of, maybe 3 or 4 hits
Man, we gotta fix your mic. How's your mic always not working?
What was that?
You are a terrible person. That's all.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I was just trying to find the settings. I'm new to this app, so I can't. I've been struggling.
Yeah, I have a nice fancy stream control panel in front of me, so it's much easier for me.
Wow.
Oh, and in talking to you, that is not the action that I wanted to do with her at all.
Oh no.
What I really wanted to do was to move her over to this other chemist that Ramza is behind right now, and try to block off that chemist from being able to heal anybody. Chemists can throw their items, as you're probably about to see. Oh no, that was a very dumb move by the AI, which is not entirely uncommon, but that chemist just separated himself from the people that can actually attack pretty well, so he's going to be in a world of hurt soon. And this enemy party only has one chemist, so once we get him done, this party is so low level that they're not likely to have anybody who has chemist abilities as a secondary, which means they're not going to be able to heal themselves at all. Obviously, this is an excellent sign for us. Of course, hitting for more than 8 HP would also be an excellent sign for us, so we can't get everything we want. Oh, come on now. That is so weak. Okay. I am going to actually retreat this chemist a little bit and try to put him in a spot where he can reach both sets of people with thrown items at once. That chemist got a little dinged up, so we'll heal her real quick. He's probably out of range to heal those 2 female squires that I sent to the rooftop, but that's okay. We can move him back as needed. Or indeed, we can knock her out and then retreat this squire back to roughly her original position and try to make that other male squire over there make a choice.
Nice.
Now this is the part of the battle where a lot of times, indeed, NP, the enemy messed up their move and I messed up my swing, so that chemist and Ramza are kind of balanced at the moment. Fair enough. As I was about to say, this is the part of the battle where I would be tempted to kind of screw around a little bit and just try to bump up the experience a little bit by taking actions that won't kill off the enemy, but will give a little bit of experience. Especially now that I just lost that Squire S, I'm not going to do that at this point.
Right.
Especially since Ramza doesn't seem to be able to cut wet paper either.
No. Gosh. Get it together, Ramza.
Ah!
You talk the talk. You gotta, do something.
Now, I do have a couple Phoenix Downs available to me, which at some point, maybe I'll heal that Squire S if I want to drag this out a little bit longer, but at the moment, I don't really want to.
And they are kind of expensive this early in the game.
They are. Most everything is pretty expensive at this point of the game.
Yeah.
That said, you do get a little bolus of cash as war prizes for finishing battles, so we won't be hurting too terribly badly. But still, nothing there where you want to really be spending money if you don't have to. And this is why I really screwed up my tactics earlier by not putting enough characters at that chemist. Now he is healed himself of pretty much all the damage that Ramza gave to him. And now I have to rush other characters over there as quickly as possible in order to avoid, losing out on my character who's unconscious, while this chemist just kind of sits here and heals himself every other turn until I want to die. Oh, and we still have that other squire who's chilling out next to Delita at the moment, who will need to be handled as well. So let's go ahead and...
forget about the randos.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and bring her back to life. Barely. Okay, so you couldn't really see it because of where the camera angle was at the time, but one of the enemies just hit their death timer, and when that happens, whether it's an enemy or your character, they will do one of two things. They will either drop a treasure chest, which will contain some general item or usually a piece of equipment that they had on them, or they will leave a crystal behind. Crystals are cool because what they can do is they can either refill the HP and MP of the character who picks them up, or they can teach a new ability. Typically, unless you really need the healing, you can learn a lot of abilities, and you can learn some of them much earlier than you could otherwise by picking up crystals, which is another reason to drag out some of these battles. If you have all of your party alive and you can have some of their guys, disappear and leave crystals behind, you can do a lot of ability learning early and not have to spend JP on it, which is a huge boon.
But even if you need using it on healing is of course something of a, lost opportunity, but even so, this early in the game, when it's kind of, when items are expensive...
Yeah, it can save you a lot of money.
Yeah. Or in the middle of a battle, if you're really in, if you're in a tight spot, it can really, help free up a turn.
This chemist is really stupid. I feel like that chemist probably could have gotten just about in range that turn to support his squire. Probably not all the way in range, but instead he took a bare-fisted swing at Ramza, and and
Love to see it.
yeah, just stranded. Now, Delita got knocked down in that round, but it's really not that big of a deal at this point because we have the battle pretty well in hand. All of our other characters who could disappear are alive now, and we can just pick away at what they've got left. Now, that was probably a dumb move on my part also, by attacking that chemist again, because that probably put him in a place where he's going to feel like healing himself, and that's not going to help us too much. It's just going to take us longer to finish off this friggin' battle.
Well, shouldn't you have walked around him and tried to attack him from the backside anyhow?
Well, yes, but you also get a bonus by attacking from higher ground. So from being a half step higher and not in the water there, I did get a little bit of additional potential damage bonus. And yeah, there we go. I screwed that up, and now he's healed again. But at least I can now send my chemist over to start stabbing him as well. And I can also bring that wounded squire over and have her pound on him if necessary. If I can get him surrounded, one round of turns through all three of them will be more than sufficient to finish off the battle. Plus, enemies have a tendency to kind of run and hide when they get low on HP. So now that I've hit that squire pretty good, he's not critical yet, so he'll probably take another swing at me next turn. But after that, he will either be dead or he will run off to the corner of the battlefield, and the chemist will never be able to support him again, regardless of how healthy he might be. So I can't move all the way behind that chemist from here anyway. Ramza doesn't have enough move range at the moment, so we'll just keep him here and hit him again. At the very least, it's a good way to grind up a lot more EXP. And NP, don't think that I'm ignoring you. The chat is on a different monitor than what I've got the big game on, so yeah. I don't necessarily I don't know why you're fnarring me at the moment. You'll have to be more clear.
I believe it was the pound on him part.
Oh, that would make sense. Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
I got you, NP. Don't worry.
As the secondary character, nobody ever tells me that. Oh,
Is there
bugger.
a bonus based on the type of... I feel like the answer is yes. I'm not exactly sure how it works. Is there bonuses for attacking based on the terrain? Like if you're going land to... If you're being attacked while in the water, for example, or something like that?
I believe your evasion is hampered by being in water. Again, the power players probably know this off the top of their head. I know that there is some level of change to it, but not exactly what that is. Let's grab a crystal. Ah, so she had 0 abilities to learn, so that was an utter waste, but c'est la vie. Oh! That is actually going to be a problem. Yep, that's going to be a problem now. I screwed around too much again, and now I'm going to have to do something about this. Because now I have 2 chemists to take down a squire, and I have this guy who can heal himself for more than I'm hitting him for each round. This is exactly what I was talking about.
I remember it being an issue too when I played this, that a potion that gives back 30 HP is like more than twice.
Yeah, it's pretty OP at this part, which is another reason why this battle can often suck, and why this will take so much more time in our stream than it really should.
And that doesn't because this moment in the game where the potions are so much better than the damage you can cause by an attack, it doesn't last that long.
No, not at all.
By the time really, well, because you fight several battles then in like forests and fields, and they don't really have potions.
Yeah, because you're fighting monsters, indeed.
Right, and then by the time you get to Dorter or whatever it is where all the boxes are,
yeah, the nefarious
by
crate
that time
level.
already that differential is sort of washed out. So
yep. So I'm going to burn my last Phoenix down, just because I know this battle is going to run on a little bit longer than it should.
Alas.
Oh, look, he's going to potion. But at least while he's potioning, he's not trying to punch out that squire who's already still critical.
True.
So she's going to end up racking up just a boatload of HP while we do this. So my new plan, or EXP, I mean, my new plan here is we're just going to keep pounding on this guy. Enemy parties have an unlimited number of potions, so he can just keep healing himself, and that's just going to give us more and more experience and JP as we roll through. But I'm going to leave this chemist here. She's probably going to... She's going to get knocked to critical in this next round, I'm almost sure, but it's going to make it much more difficult for that squire to get over and support that chemist or be healed by that chemist.
Oh.
You know, he just had to waste some of his move radius getting around a character, because you can't go through a enemy character. You can only go through a character in your own party.
Right. Ah, bummer.
Okay. In the meantime, we can move these other characters into place to finish off that squire, at which point they can all converge on the chemist and eventually finish the job here. Of course, now that we've allowed him to move into the corner, that's going to be more problematic, because it means that we're only going to have 2 squares that can hit him with these party members, and because we don't have anybody that has ranged attacks at all, which means we're going to have to move people into place and then also move them out of place so we can move somebody back into place to take a swing at them later, which is going to make the entire process far less efficient. I suppose that's not necessarily true. We may have a character, one of the squires may be able to throw stones. I don't remember the initial ability loadout. Thrown stones are obviously a ranged attack, but they're like crossbows. If you don't have clear line of sight at who you're attacking, you can hit somebody in your own party instead if they're crowding around them like we are currently.
Right.
All that said, that chemist can no longer move anywhere. So we can just box him in here and punch him a little bit more. I won't move her out of the way yet, because I don't think I have anybody who can move back into that range to get an immediate next attack. So I'll move her in there and get her ready. Go ahead and... Yeah, really, we're in no danger. I'm not going to burn a potion on that. Now, the way the turns work in this is not totally dissimilar from other turn-based Final Fantasy games. You can see on the screen that I've got up now, there's a CT meter. That means charge time. And that simply is what it says, is how long it takes for the enemy to, or the character to charge and be ready to execute another command. If you move a character but don't actually execute a command, then it refills a little bit faster. This chemist couldn't move because he was boxed in. So you can see here his CT is already at 40, whereas if he'd moved and done an action at the same time, he probably would have been lower at this point. I say that now because what that likely means is the fact that I had this squire that I moved but did not execute. She will probably get another command faster, and I may be able... I can think about moving Ramza out of the way at this point, and maybe she has a spot that she can then get to. So we'll see if we get a little lucky on that. We'll move him back one square and see if we can get somebody else to get a turn fast enough to get in there and get another hit in before he can heal again. We can't. But next time we should be able to. So, hey, why not? Okay. So now, she can attack, get a hit in there for 12. We'll move her out of the way. Move her into the space. Get another attack in for 12. Let's check. No stone.
That would have been too easy.
Yeah, I always like taking the female chemists, but I think it might be the male ones that actually have it. So, you know, another dumb choice on my part. Okay, chant is not particularly useful to us here. So now he can't get in there to attack. Oh, hey, look. But at least he didn't get healed up all the way this time, so that's nice.
That difference of 3 is not nothing.
Yeah, it will contribute. And now that we have everybody really close, and I've had a couple characters wait, we should be able to get at least 4 attacks off on this guy this way. 1 attack, move her out of the way. 2 attacks.
Real killer.
Yeah, Move her out of the way. Okay, let's, now, how do I do this? What button does it? Ah, here we go. We'll access the turn list here, and it'll show exactly who's going to get turns. So the chemist, the enemies are in red, obviously. The chemist is going to get another turn after my chemist. So I could have thought about waiting to try to get the squire in there to get an attack, or Ramza in to get an attack first. He's going to heal pretty soon. So with those 3 attacks, it's not enough to yeah, now he's going to be all the way back to 39 hit points again. So what we're really learning here, okay, there we go. That will be a huge help. He made the dumb decision to get out of that corner. Now we can surround him entirely. That'll resolve our situation here. And from a cave, DP realizes what a pain this battle is. Hey, there we go. We got a critical on that one. So not only did we get 12 out of it, we got 16. That'll help a great deal. There we go. Finally. Oh my goodness. This is one of those utterly failure streams, as usual.
Well, okay, it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, I could have lost, yeah.
Or we could have won and somebody died. Do I sound like I'm always in a cave, or just
No,
sometimes?
you go in and out. So we got 1 potion and 1 phoenix down back out of that, so that's not too terribly bad.
That's alright. Again, considering that that's the hardest battle until we get, you know, over to Dorder.
Yeah, I mean the early ones are always pretty easy to screw up, so you got to be careful. But let's see what we can do here. Is there anything that's going to be any use to us here? Nope. So we've got 4,500 gil at the moment. We can go ahead and blow some of it on, making sure that our items are up to speed. And that's really about it. All of the big dots here have towns that have shops. The tavern is where you can recruit more soldiers. Or no, the Warriors Guild is where you recruit more soldiers. The Outfitter is where you get items and equipment, of course. And the tavern is where you can hear rumors, which is something that can give you like some side quests later on. The side quests in this context are interesting because they're not like real side quests. You just kind of send off some of your party to go do them, and then after X amount of days, depending on the quest, they come back. And if you send the right people or the right job classes, you'll get items and bonus experience and things like that. It's pretty neat, but in no way necessary for the game. But the neat thing is when you do get like the treasures that you find as part of this, the treasures all come from other Final Fantasy games. So you can get items that have significance to Final Fantasy 1 or Final Fantasy 3, etc., etc. It's just kind of neat.
That's always fun. You spoke too fast. When you said the tavern is where you can go to hear rumors. I was gonna try to sneak a Fleetwood Mac.
Fleetwood Mac reference, yeah.
You didn't give me. You just kept moving right on there.
I appreciate the effort, and I would have appreciated the reference.
We'll work on the rapport over a few more streams.
How long have we known each other? And we haven't really gotten the rapport down yet? I mean, come on. You and I have had beer together.
Yeah.
If that's not going to do it.
Yeah. How long have I... It's got to be...
That was a long time ago.
Well, it's been a little while since we've had a beer.
Yeah.
Right, because when I was in New Orleans most recently, you just...
Yeah, I was unable to meet you, unfortunately.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. It's got to be close to 10 years that I've been around now.
Oh, yeah. Very close, I'm sure. We've skipped to another cutscene here. These characters will all become vitally important later on, but the short version is this is all of Ramza's family. Barbaneth is his father, and the two guys at Barbaneth's side are Ramza's half-brothers, and the girl is Ramza's sister. So the brothers were from a previous relationship that Barbaneth had, and then later on in life, Ramza and Alma, the girl, came around. All of that does kind of matter. Yes, we should call him Barbie for short.
But we do not yet know that this is Ramza's family, correct?
Well, we do. Well, actually, as soon as that first dialogue screen comes up, you should be able to put it together because they do have the Beowulf name.
Oh.
Oh.
I missed that Ramza had been introduced with the Beowulf name.
Yes. In fact, one of the enemies in the last battle, as that battle opened up, he identified Ramza as of House Beowulf.
Right. Beowulf.
Yes, I do remember that from the last time we tried to stream this, where we just made utterly terrible representations of his name.
Well, I think it's warranted. So now, this is like an aristocratic house that is aligned with the royalty. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes. Okay. And it's not exactly 100% clear where in the flow this happens. I believe this is actually a flashback from the flashback that we were just already in with the battle.
Right.
I believe, and I may have missed it in the text, but I believe that this takes place right before Ramza goes to the academy and meets, or not meets Delita, but goes with Delita to the academy. Because obviously this isn't happening right now, because this is happening at the place that Ramza is trying to get to right now.
Right.
I think. Or nearby. Okay, there we go. I was wrong. He was already in the academy, but he's come home for his father's death. But it's still before the battle that we just had. Now, imagine how hard this is to piece together with the original translation where you can't understand half the words that come through it.
Aha, right, because Delta is is lower class.
That's right, and the class warfare plays a huge role in the way that the plotline rolls out as well.
Right. I'm remembering this now.
In fact, it crops up pretty much starting at the very next battle.
We already see there a little bit of the tension between stepbrothers.
Yes, in fact, and you know, I'd have to go into the backstory to see if there's any more information about that. But I have a hunch that Ramza's mother might also have not been highborn, which creates some of that.
That sounds familiar to me.
I think that might be the case. Yes, when text appears on screen in P, it does make that little kind of like chattery medieval typewriter sound. That one is not the fact that we cannot operate our mics like professionals. That is actually in the game.
You know, medieval typewriters. Standard material.
Okay, so we've got a new battle here. We've got a split grid here, which, as I recall from this battle layout, actually does make a pretty big difference. And I also think that Ramza does get moved into a different position from wherever you put him in this one. So for the time being, I'll put him in the back line, expecting that he will not remain there. We can do one more. Yeah, we'll go with one chemist for this one. I've never watched Game of Thrones, NP, but I actually think that there's probably more parallels that you can draw between Ramsay and Jon Snow than I would be aware of.
I actually have never watched it either.
Yeah. We're bad at pop culture.
I never claimed to be otherwise.
Very true. Okay, so now we've got more soldiers that kind of look like the ones that we just beat up, which makes sense. The guy that is critical and crouched right now is obviously somebody different. Oh, look at that. Ramza didn't get moved. Again, I keep remembering that wrong. Oops. But that's okay. So now this is one of those battles, and you think when you see it this early in the game that this is going to happen lots and lots and lots, where you get options at the beginning of the battle of how you want to prioritize things. That doesn't really happen very much. In this case, we have two options. The first one is to kill the bad guys. The second one is to make sure that the guy they're beating up doesn't die. It changes the objective of the battle. So if I go with number 2 here, I get some brief like battle long stat bonuses. I think everybody in the party gets a bonus to bravery if I go that way. But if the other guy dies, then the battle is over and it's game over. So, yeah, given the bad luck that I had the first time around, it doesn't actually impact anything else in the story. I think maybe you get a little bit more war chest at the end if you go the brave route. Yeah, we'll roll the dice.
Old Josh. Old.
But now that means that we're going to want to move our chemist into position as quickly as possible to help defend him in case he loses his HP. Which, he's got 52 to start, so that's not terrible. And there's also some new classes that show up here. The guy that just threw an attack is a thief, and apparently a coward. And the first monster of the game you can just see on the left side of the screen right now. I believe in this translation he's a cougar.
or Coral?
Coral, yeah. Actually, yes. In the original version, that's what he was supposed to be, but they translated it really badly, so it came out as Quar.
Excellent. I thought
Yes.
you were going to say that they added an extra vowel into it.
just to make it that little bit more Irish.
That would have made sense, you know? This game loves its vowels.
You're the one that knows things like this. I believe Coral is a mythological Irish creature, correct?
I'm not sure, actually. I
I remember looking at one point in time out of curiosity, but obviously I've lost that knowledge by now. Now, this is another one where we don't really have very many actions that any of these characters can take that will be beneficial right now. So I'm just keeping them in wait mode. I move them as far as I can and then put them in wait mode so they get their next turn faster, rather than do things that aren't really going to help us just to get a little bit of experience. I probably should have gone through after that last battle and seen if there's anything I could have taught these characters that would have been more useful, but I always forget to do that when I'm streaming because it's just like, let's move on to the next thing.
Right. What's the name of the guy in the overalls again?
That's, well, the one that we're rescuing?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Argath. Or
Argath,
Argrath. His original name in the PSX version was Argus. Or, is that right? God, it's been so long since I don't even remember now. But yeah, it was much easier to pronounce in the PSX version, even though it sounded kind of stupid. And I guess Argrath sounds kind of stupid too, so yeah, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. These guys formed up in an interesting way. I can't really tell where the front of their attack is going to come through at the moment. So I feel like my best bet is probably to shift people back over here to the left side of the field from where we started and try to keep this larger group that's all bunched together away a little bit until they can spread out and not get in a position where they can trap anybody.
Okay. That makes sense.
And, you know, now they've split into 2 discrete elements a little more clearly, which should be helpful to us.
Nice.
And the problem with that is that obviously the guest characters are going to do more or less whatever they feel like. So, you know, Delita is going to run over there and take on 3 guys by himself.
Classic. Well, I guess only 2 now.
Yeah. I find that to be a bit of an interesting approach by the AI, but...
Well, the AI fighting for you is usually pretty bad, I feel like, in this game.
Yeah, in a lot of cases the AI is just bad generally. You know, most battles that give people a lot of genuine problems are battles where you're up against a overwhelming force or you're up against characters that have some, you know, very significant sorts of special abilities. Generally, you're not going to be out-tacticked in this game, ironically. When you lose, you're going to lose, you know, partially because of bad tactics, but more so because you're just up against one of those battles that is intended to be difficult.
Well, I mean, I think one of the moments where one feels their tactics contribute to the loss are when you know, are not in control of 2 of your characters.
Mm-hmm.
And they run off and, you know, mess up your entire, you know, strategy.
Yeah, and the upcoming battle in Dorter that you've mentioned a couple times is very much one of those, because you do have 2 guest characters at that point, and if they make good decisions, it makes the battle far easier. And if they make bad decisions, you're in a world of hurt.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and you're digging yourself well out of a hole. In my opinion, the monster is the most dangerous of the characters in this battle, so I'm going to, you know, try to pincer it a bit and try to pound some of its hit points away. The reason that it's most dangerous is because, again, we don't really have, we don't have ranged attacks, which means we can be countered at every turn.
Right.
What did I
Donna.
Aww. You look so sad.
I know, right?
I love it. Some attacks, like you just saw, actually have the added ability to move a character, which is really interesting. Stone is one of them, and Rush is another, the body tackle attack that Squires can learn. It doesn't really present itself as an option very often, but one of the absolute best things to do in this game is to get an enemy on a ledge and rush them and knock them off. Because fall damage is a thing, it just doesn't happen very often. But there are a couple maps where you can knock somebody off a ledge far enough that even if they're at full HP, they will die when they land, and it's just hilarious. Really makes me happy. So we've lost one character here, but nobody in the enemy party has the ability to heal. So at this point we can probably take this on as a battle of attrition and just grind through them. The other reason that the monster is a little bit more dangerous is it can evade attacks a little bit better. So hopefully, okay, good. I was worried that that one was going to jinx me and miss.
Nice.
Okay, nice work.
I think as we stream this, I'll probably start fast-forwarding a little bit through once the battle is in hand, as I'm doing a little bit of now. Because even if I miss something by going fast, we should be in fairly good shape to win the battle. That notwithstanding. I mean, we've got two characters down. One of them has 3 on their death counter, the other one has 2. It has to get all the way to 0 and then past 0 before they actually go. So we really have nothing to worry about here. The biggest concern that I have at the moment is the fact that the first guy that we killed, the first 2 of them, both have 0 death counters there in the middle of the screen. And that thief could very easily get over there and pick up a crystal if either of them crystallize in the meantime. Hopefully we'll luck out on that. You know, if Argath actually does something useful here, which, okay, run across the screen and get far enough away to throw a stone. I mean, okay, it worked out okay, but...
Smooth.
This is one of my favorite things in cutscenes like this. There's just a very bizarre, because everything is isometric, when the character has to turn in this way and face directly at the screen, they look really bizarre.
Yes.
In fact, that was almost the sprite that I put on the stream, just because of how bizarre it looked, but eh. NP wants us to know that that is some raw herp-derp energy. And for once, I think he's not talking about the stream itself. I think he's actually talking about how Ramza looks right there.
Well, let's not get too cocky here.
A little bit of gil, couple potions, la-da-da.
Limberry.
Marquis Elmdor will show up a lot in the near future.
Right, and
Newbie is the place that the Order just retook.
Yes. Yeah. I believe that Elmdor was driven out of there as the Marquis, and now is able to go back.
Okay, now restored.
Move! Now, here's Argath. He's highborn, but he's not really important. So he's going to try to play this new friendship with Ramza into an opportunity to get what he needs.
Uh-huh. Wow, what are the other characters in your party? Chopped liver, man.
Well, the others truly are, more or less sellswords. They are in the academy, of course, but they're not from the highest of the high families the way Ramza is.
But neither is Delana.
Yes, and Argath doesn't know that yet.
Ah, right.
Now, this orange icon on the map indicates that there's a battle here. There's not. You're okay. I'm not exactly sure how Ramza got decorated since he immediately shipped out of town and went to go kill some more guys, but whatever. Also, I think I think he's I feel like Dice Dark's blowing smoke here because, he beat up a bunch of punk squires in town. Whoop-de-doo! Nobody's singing his praises from on high. So, Dice Dark is much more important now, given that Barbie has passed on. Zalbag is the younger one and is still young enough to fight. As you can see, Barbie was pretty old, and Dice Dark's the oldest of the kids. And again, Argath is pretty much like, well, I don't know why you won't just let me lead a troop of your troops. Yeah.
Dejected sit down.
He's a petulant little man. The most petulant.
Truly. With his little overalls.
Ah, and here we go. A little bit of backstory. Oh, fallen from grace. Oh.
Stand on the bridge. Tell us your story.
Pensively throw a rock into the stream.
That's how the last battle ended. He pensively threw a rock.
Fair enough.
It wasn't a funny joke, but it was a joke.
Nah, I just didn't get it. Oh, more new characters.
Tietra.
Tietra is Delita's sister.
Right.
And of course, she and Alma are friends in much the same way that Ramza and Delita are. Oh, but Tietra's got the derp pose going as well. She looks cross-eyed. So unfortunate.
Wait, what's Garaland again? Is that a place?
Garaland is where we started. That was where the thieves raided the town, and Ramza's troop went out to meet them.
Right.
The Magic City.
Oh, okay.
All the cities have something special about them. And that's their second name. The Magic City Garaland.
New Jersey, the smelly state.
Delita and Tietra are orphaned, and as such, Delita's kind of taken control of taking care of her once or when he's around, which is why he's worried about how she's doing at school.
Right, but they're both sort of under the patronage of Rams's family.
Yes, yeah, the Hyrule had served Rams's family. And they were such beloved servants that when orphaned, the Boos took the kids in.
Nice pronunciation.
We'll never do it the same way twice.
Yep, that's the goal. That's our promise.
No, that's not our promise.
My promise.
I mean, I think we promised to actually finish the game the last time we tried to stream through it, but yet here we are again in Chapter 1.
Yeah.
It's almost as if the two of us have jobs.
No, Dorter, ugh.
Yeah. Now, Dysadarg had ordered Ramza and Delita to stay at the castle and guard the castle. Zalbag was pretty much saying, yeah, that order kind of sucks, so if you kind of want to ignore it, this is a good place for you to go.
Right, right. Which is obviously sort of fishy. Well, maybe not fishy, but the elder brothers are not perhaps of one mind.
No. But, and, because, Dysadarg has more of a grudge about Ramza and Alma's mother than Zalbag does, I think, is the unstated fact of the matter.
Certainly, wait, which was the one that was just talking to us?
That was Zalbag.
Yeah, certainly Dysadarg has been more critical of Ramza in the cutscenes we've had.
Indeed. And now here's Alma telling the truth to Ramza. Tietra's getting bullied at school because she's not highborn.
Aww. Don't lose sight of yourself, Ramza. You needn't let your life be ruled by the fact that you were born a dude.
I was waiting for that. I was giving you the opportunity for that one.
Thanks. I appreciate it. A little bit of wind action there. Nice.
Yeah, nice little breeze. Oh boy, now we get to backtrack. Okay.
Love to do it.
Let's buy some stuff. That's correct, NP. Dysadarg. He's the one with the crazy hair and funky beard.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they both have funky beards, I guess. Dysadarg is the one with the big swooped hair.
Well, yeah, Dysadarg is the one who from profile would look like a crescent moon.
Exactly true. Okay. Let's see.
Right.
Let's blow some money.
Josh's shopping.
I believe that this is the only store for a little while where you can actually get bow guns, and those come in handy later on, especially once you get towards Dorter, so I'm going to go ahead and buy them now, even though it's going to leave us a little skint.
I guess we have a decent amount of money right now. But not enough to equip everyone as well as...
Oh, goodness, no.
The trick, you only really have enough money at this point to, reasonably equip, like, Ramza and maybe one other character.
Yeah, I'm going to leave a little money in the bank here, but we'll see what we can do with this. Having bought the 2 bow guns, I like to try to move Delita and Argath into Archer as soon as possible, because it really balances out their lousy AI by giving them ranged attacks.
That's a good strategy.
It's the same strategy we did the last time we tried to do this, so you may remember it.
Well, the time that I did it, I did not do that, so...
So any strategy is better than that, because you were terrible.
I was.
Let's also try to learn some abilities. He's got 385 Squire JP, which is going to be enough to get us move +1. Move abilities are always super useful.
Sweet. Counter tackle.
Tailwind is the best Ramza ability for quite a long time, as long as he has Squire abilities equipped. Unfortunately, I left myself 15 JP short from buying it, or else I would be having it right now. As you can see on the screen, it boosts an ally's speed, and you can use it on Ramza or anybody within range. And speed loads your CT meter faster, which gets you more turns, which is obviously amazing. The other really good ability early on is Auto Potion, because it really frees up you to use fewer chemists, because characters can automatically heal themselves when attacked. It burns through your potions very quickly also, but it's a really strong ability to have early in the game. It gets awkward later on because at some point you will have potions and you use your weakest potion with Auto Potion, just like in other Final Fantasy games that have that ability. So until you have enough money to buy stronger potions, you're using weaker potions on characters that aren't getting that much benefit out of them anymore because they have, 90 or 100 HP. But by and large, it's a nice ability to have for a long time. I'm going to go ahead and teach Ramza Potion, though, even though it's going to get us a little further away from having Auto Potion, because he's not using a secondary ability, a job set yet. So now he can heal himself, or he can heal anybody within 1 square of him. Only chemists or characters that have learned the throw item ability and have it equipped can actually throw items across the battlefield. So Ramza won't have the range of a real chemist, but in a pinch he can be used as a secondary healer now. I also taught him... Go ahead.
Go for it. No, you go ahead.
Well, I also want to equip the move +1 that I just taught him. Then that'll get him an extra square of range in moving around the battlefield.
Auto Potion, though, if I'm remembering correctly, can sometimes be annoying in some of the longer battles, though, where maybe you just don't want to be spending the potion.
Yeah, yeah. If you're just winding down a battle to grind, and you're not going to lose that battle or lose your characters, yeah, it can be a little obnoxious to be burning potions in that scenario. But by the time you actually learn Auto Potion, odds are you have enough money to restock yourself on regular potions pretty well.
Right, yeah, that's the question of stocking. If you have it before you have enough money, some of the long battles, you potentially run risk.
Yeah.
Running out by inefficient use of potions early in the battle. And that seems to be the kind of thing that happens really, either in Dorter or...
Yeah. Okay. We'll go ahead and get everybody with a little bit of move +1 here. That just makes things easier. Or at least our main characters here. Let's see how our chemists are doing.
You will have at least one between now and getting to Dorter.
Yes. Yeah, probably more.
Probably more like, at least 2, I think, even. So it's possible you'll get more JP to be able to grab with someone with ability or something, too.
Now, a lot of times I probably won't make the audience watch me screwing around in these menus, but early on in the game, it makes sense. Let's... I've given some white magic to both chemists as well now, just basic cure. But in the case that we might actually get low on potions, MP, restore after every battle. So there's really no need to worry about running out of MP permanently. So, Cure won't work as well as a potion, but it'll do the job in a pinch. So we'll give it to both of them for now. And, the standard way of going through these characters is that eventually your chemists will probably become mages of some sort. That's the way the game kind of sets it up for it to be easiest for you. But a lot of people like to do Ramza as a mage as well. Typically speaking, characters that have high levels of faith make better mages. So if I were really paying attention to my party here, I'd say, okay, well, let's see. This chemist has only 47 faith. This squire has 54. That would technically make him a slightly better mage. But it's just, it doesn't make that big of a difference or enough of a difference for me to really care. So we'll probably stick with a fairly standard way of going through the job tree with these characters and not make any huge divergences for a while. We really have no need to get into a random battle here, so let's hope that we don't. Yay! Now we're back to Garland on the way to try to find the Marquise. And here we go into a cutscene. This is the tavern.
Ooh.
And this cutscene is, it's meta. This was added for the PSP version because, as our other stream watcher has noticed, he was looking for somebody to play co-op with. The PSP version adds co-op play. It's not something I know too terribly much about because I've never had an opportunity to do it. But you can do battles against other people or co-op play. And that's what this is talking about here. So that might be interesting. Maybe we can get that working as well, even with your general technical issues. And maybe at some point we could do a co-op mission or two in the Steam, or in the stream rather. Yada yada yada.
Oh my goodness, what is wrong with that man's face?
What's
What
not?
the heck? Oh dear.
Okay. Off we go to the next forced battle. This is going to be our first battle against all monsters.
Little fight in the woods.
I can't tell if I was memeing just then. What was I memeing? Tell me, NP, tell me. Tell me my memes. Tell me about your Phoenix memes, Sally.
Again, see, like the Siege Weald, it's like there's just one too many vowels in each of those words.
It's all medievally. Fiends in a wood. Fiends in a wood. Was I just...
Enough talk, they come.
Just making a Nicki Minaj reference and I didn't even realize it. That's really sad.
Yeah.
Right? Is that the reference I was making?
I mean, if you...
I expect you to know these things.
It sounded like it could be bees in the trap.
Yes, it was. Yeah. Not through any conscious thought, but my lord.
Josh turns out to be a Nicki Minaj fan. I don't know that I would have...
Not so much. But it's definitely an earworm. What are you going to do?
I was just looking that up the other day because I was trying to figure out what the heck that phrase even means.
Did you figure it out? Because I sure don't know.
I think there is some disagreement, interpretive disagreement among listeners, but I think the sort of most ambiguous / oft used version would be something like, I'm out doing work.
Huh. Okay.
Where work can be...
I frankly can't believe we're talking about this, to be perfectly honest.
Well, I feel like this is like a baseball game and I'm the color commentator here. And you're the actual person.
I'm the play-by-play guy. I mean, Hmm.
I feel like this falls within my accepted role.
As white bread as you are, it's hard for me to comprehend you as the color commentator, but we'll go with that.
Well, when both of us are as white bread as both of us are.
Fair point.
Sometimes you're just choosing between,
Okay, so here we've got Argath, leaving the rest of the party and wandering off into the swamp on his own. So at least he's got a bow, so he doesn't feel like he has to get directly in front of these guys to hit them. It'll keep him alive another turn or two.
What that moving green sledge was, I was a little confused there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a swamp. Or and it's moving, so I guess it's not technically a swamp, but, it's swamp-esque.
Well, my first thought was, is that like wind in the grass, but it's only happening in that sort of lower tone.
Yeah, and if you look, once I move all of these dialogues out of the way, you can also see that Argath is waist deep in it, so that'll give you a little bit of a clue.
Good thing he packed those overalls.
His waders. He's actually a fisherman.
It's his job class.
I feel like that's Noctis's job class.
And swamps are not usually, coterminous.
Ooh, fancy. So I think this will be a good place for us to stop this stream once we get through this battle. We've been going for a good long time today. Yeah. And it'll give me a little bit of time to prep for what's coming next, because that's going to be a rough one, as it always is.
Old Dorder.
Dorder. Dorder. Dorder. I don't know why I'm doing that.
I remember too, the same time I was struggling to overcome Dorder, at the same time I had been unable for quite a while to defeat the final boss in Final Fantasy XIII.
I do remember that.
It was just this real bummer of a time where I was just unable to finish a couple big battles. Its order, I mean, it is big, but it's not, final battle big.
Yeah. Well, that didn't go so super well.
Oh. Yeah. So in my defense, my inability to defeat Orphan in Final Fantasy XIII was more a reflection of the fact that I was being stubborn with my character choices and my job choices than it was actually of my abilities.
I mean, that's what you say now, after I, went through right behind you and tore through it and 5-starred that battle my first time. As you may recall.
Oh, no, but there's a couple, you have to have a sentinel in that battle, and I just wasn't having it. And it turns out if that's the game that you're playing. And also, I was insisting on using Saz, who's not a good character in my...
Okay, now when guests use your potions, they actually do use a potion out of your inventory, so thanks. Now, yeah, that really kind of chafes me, because at the moment, we are in trouble, because I did not bring the chemist that knows Phoenix down. I forgot that only one of them did. And Ramza is currently dead. So, that means I need to blow through this battle before his countdown hits 0 and he expires, or else I get a game over. And at that point, I definitely would end the stream, because I would be extremely irritated. And the next stream would pick up after this battle, because, grr.
He's at a 2, but ooh, yikes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, this still should work out mostly okay. The chemist is probably going to eat it here. Oh no, she's going to have 1 HP left. I love it. Thank you for not criticaling. Now you, run away! Now, we'll see if these jokers are useful at all with their bow guns. that goblin still has quite a bit of HP. So hopefully Argath is, well, oh man.
Yikes, okay. That's not...
Fire and run, dude.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, this is another good example of how early in this game, a small mistake,
Mhm.
just not much, not much room for maneuvering. You
Yeah.
you have two characters that you can't control at all, and if they don't quite execute properly, and you make one mistake, in this case, putting in a character that doesn't have Phoenix down.
Oh,
Um,
I didn't realize she was so weak too. Yeah, we're in a great deal of trouble now. Womp womp. All right, chemist, time to be a hero. There you go, beautiful. Good lord.
wow, there was no counter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thank heaven for small favors, I suppose. Why? Why that? Why that? Why not move to support your other character and still stay in range to take out that? Oh my god. So irritating. And strictly speaking, this is a battle that, people who play this should know that, you should grind a little bit before stepping into this battle. I fail to grind when I'm in the stream because, for God's sake, why would anybody want to watch me grind? Even less than they want to watch, in general.
It's more fun to watch us lose.
Yeah, well, yes. As NP has so astutely stated, this is going to be a wipe. And, I'm not sure of the scatological impetus behind that term, but it's certainly accurate in this case. Yeah, at this point, there's absolutely nothing we can do to win this battle. Ramza will expire probably after this set of turns. So, we will be done. At least we got to hear that.
Yep.
There
Wow.
we go. But we'll get to hear the game over music.
That's
Aww.
something.
So pretty. So sad. Okay, so now we've seen the game over screen, and we will not see again this stream.
That's a bold assertion.
I got this. But for now, let's call it a day. So thank you for rejoining me again, DP. Hopefully we can get onto a better schedule than we did last time around.
Yeah, well, we've started off not quite that way, but despite our loss, we will be back.
Well, we changed everything about the technology we were using, and then none of it worked, as typical. All right, well, thank you, watchers, or watcher, as we've probably arrived at this point, and we'll try to do this again next Friday if we can manage.
Sounds good.
And we'll try to fix your mic in the meantime.